Hi friends, Tiffany here. Welcome to my quilting life. Hello, so it is Tuesday, December 7th, and I am starting a memory quilt, the t-shirt memory quilt. And it's not going to be just any t-shirt memory quilt. This one's going to be so different from what I normally do. So my grandma was married. Her husband was born January of 1936. He died just shy of his birthday in December of 2020. So my mom took the time to grab all the clothes and bring them to me so that I could make my grandma a memory quilt. And I'm also at the end, when I still have some fabrics left, I'm going to be making a memory pillow to go along with the memory quilt. I'm not making just any memory quilt though. I designed up something. My grandma goes to church every single Sunday. She has since I was a little girl. So I decided to make her a cross quilt. So my little drawing here doesn't have much. These sections right here are going to be filled with the clothes. All this section all the way around is going to have the white clothes, and then all the blank is going to be me puzzle piecing the rest of all the clothing that's not cut up for the center part of the cross down in those sections around the cross. Her husband, Kempy, worked for the Los Angeles Angels, so I am incorporating, as you saw in that little drawing, the center is going to be the Los Angeles Angels shirt. That way I can keep the whole entire middle section of the shirt in one piece. And then I'm incorporating pants and lots of different kinds of t-shirts. So there's going to be like rayon and cotton and so on. Here's an Angels shirt from the World Series champions. This one's kind of like a rayon or polyester blend. This one, same thing. I'm going to be incorporating all of these. Again, he worked for the Angels, so he has lots of Angels shirt. Then the plain, everything that's white left over from the main fabric, the main t-shirt that's going to be going in the center of the cross, all this leftover white, I'm going to cut down, and that will be the white that goes around the cross to highlight it. They also went to Calvary Chapel, so I'm going to incorporate the Calvary Chapel shirt, as well as, again, more Angel shirts. This one's definitely polyester. And then to fill in all the sections, so I'm going to show this again. See, that's the center for the Angel shirt. To fill in all these sections, since I'm going to be puzzle piecing it in there, I grabbed from my stash this flannel right here. That way it can, like, if I need 2.5 inches here to make it as big as the next piece. And you never know. I might end up just putting this all as 5-inch squares. You never know. I don't know what I'm doing until I start cutting it. And I'm going to be vlogging this. So if you see me in my pajamas throughout this video or a change of clothes, this is how long it's going to take me. And I'm going to try to keep it all in one video. That way my grandma can watch this. Hi, Grandma. This is what I'm going to be doing. I also want to say that this time I am not using Pellon 911. I am actually going to be using the Pellon ES 114. It's a little bit more shapier, and I don't want this to be too thick. It's going to California, and it does not need to be super thick and super warm. It just needs to be cuddleable. And since I'm making a pillow to go with this after, it'll give her a pillow to squeeze and a quilt to cover her with. I don't actually know the size that this is going to finish as or anything. And if it needs to be bigger when I contact my mom, then I will make it bigger as I go, just by bordering it out and find some cool fabrics to do that with. So with all that said, some of this video will be normal, and I will probably explain the process as I am doing it. And then some of it is going to be in time lapse, because I do want to film the whole entire process. And the only way I'm going to fit that in one video is to add time lapse to it. So kick back, relax, enjoy, and I'll let you know what day it is by the time I finish with this quilt. So we're going to start with some ironing and prepping the fabrics so that I can interface them. So some of these I cannot iron because of the type of fabric it is. So now time to cut out all the usable fabric from all these fabrics. So mainly what I do is I'm going to cut out along these seams right here, and then along the seams, like, you know, all the seams, and cut out the arm seams, which I will press differently because I don't really want to iron them all if I'm going to chop them all up anyway. Then I can iron the rest of the stuff that is ironable because I got to put interfacing on it all anyway. But I'm going to cut along the seams, and separate all the big chunks of fabric from all of these. I only had to press some of it for now because it is kind of wrinkly and I want to be able to find, I want the most of the fabric. So some of it needs to be super flat so that I can cut those seams to get the most of everything. So let's get to cutting it all out. So now I have all the clothes cut, and what I need to do is, first off, since I know that this angel shirt is my center, I need to decide on the size that it needs to be so that way I can interface it. I don't want it at this very moment because I don't know what size I'm cutting the rest of everything yet. I don't want to interface the whole entire thing and then have to toss it in the trash if I don't use the pieces. That's a waste. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide on the center size. I'm kind of thinking like 15 by 20, somewhere around there. Yeah, because I have it a little bit on my little design. I have it a little bit elongated to use more of it. I'm going to go ahead and cut it to the size I need it to be. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut this 14 by 19. So if I lay my ruler on here, and I know it's kind of harder to see, but if I lay my ruler on here, like say end of picture to end of picture, it's like 1.5 inches from end to end. So I know that that's my 14. So I'm going to mark this an erasable that where my 14 is, like this. And I'm just going to carry that on with my markings so that I know where they're going to land all the way up till I get to where I can do 14 by 19. Go up just a little bit more. I know it's a weird number, but I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to keep making just little pin marks. That's all I'm doing. Just a reference point, honestly. That way I know where to cut. And here. And the shirt stretches, so it's going to make it a little bit harder at first to get it where I want it. But I do have my reference point now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut my sides first. So I'm going to start with one side. That way I still have some fabric left over on the sides because I need all I can get for this. Go ahead and line this up. I need 19 inches. So I'm going to line up 14 to the 19. So right here. And then that way I can go straight across up here and I know that it's going to move. So I'm kind of feeling I should go just a little bit bigger, put the interfacing on, and then cut it to size. Go just a little bit bigger like this. That way I have plenty of room. Grab a cutter. I'm going to start down here. Come up to here, go that way, like that. And we're going to go to my reference points on this side, just like this. Go just past them. That way I can make enough space to where I'm not wasting too much fabric. So, and my 19-inch mark was way down here. We're going to just come down here. My interfacing is 20 inches. So I'm just going to put one straight piece along this that's cut out at 14 inches. So this I'm just going to set aside because I can use those still. Hopefully. What I'm going to do is take this over to the ironing board. I am going to first cut off a piece of this. So you can see this is 20 inches. I'm just going to cut off a little bit bigger than 14 inches from side to side. And then we're going to figure out how to get this on here without stretching anything and touching the vinyl. So I'm going to line this up right here on the end and come over to the 14. Where did I just stick my cutter? I mean my ruler. Right there, look at me. Like I said, I'm just vlogging this, guys. So if I am just a little bit wonky with anything or I'm forgetting stuff, that's because this is what happens in real life here when I'm trying to do this. So I'm going to stick that aside and we're going to take this over to the iron. I'm going to figure out how to get it on the shirt nicely without stretching or pulling any. Oh yeah, now it's on there. And look, it's very flowy, just like I want it, but it's stabilizing it for when I go to sew everything. So for now, since this piece is now fully fused on here, you can see it nice and everything's staying good. It's flat. I will trim it when I go to put everything together to the perfect size I need it to be. Now I just need to think of what size I want to cut the rest of everything so that I can start cutting it and start putting interfacing on the rest of everything else. So let's get to that part. So now I got the one shirt like I just showed you. I'm going to take the rest of the clothes and I think what I'm going to do is go through and choose all the ones that I want to be in the up and down and the side to side version on the cross. So the up and down sections, I'm going to be cutting the fabric in the up and down way. So since it's most of these shirts, well, yeah, most of these shirts are directional. So I'll be cutting the directional way of the shirts. And then when I add the cross on the cross points, I'm going to put those directional. So I'll be cutting across probably the back of the shirt. But I just wanted to come and say that's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera around and face it down at the cutting mat and just put the rest of that part in time lapse as I cut them. And then I'm going to choose from those fabric which ones will go where. And I'm going to build the cross first, except I'm not going to sew that yet. I will wait to sew it until I have my cross part built so that I know my height and my width of everything. So I'm just going to put you more back into the time lapse while I do that. So now I have 3 of each of these so far. 3 of the colors I chose to go on the up and down with the diagonal. Sorry, you're this way, but I need to, I need you to see this as I do this. Okay, so I'm going to choose the order I want them in. So I'm going to go like this. And on the top, I'm going to do the same exact thing. So it's going to come out once I straighten all 3 of these together to be the same height. Hold on, there it is, right in front of my face. I'm going to straighten the 3 of them out, just like this across the top. They're going to be super straight. I'm going to make a nice straight line because that's where they're going to join. And then what I'm going to do is now that they're the same height, I'm going to stack them. And it looks like the Angels one is the longest. I'm going to stack them. And I made 3 of these each because I'm going to actually add to it and make it longer. So what I'm going to do is line them up nice and straight. And it was really tough getting the interfacing on this print because this one with the surfboards on it is very, very bendy and wobbly because it's a rayon. So just know that it is a little hard on certain things to get the interfacing to stay nice. But I mean, I got it on there, so that's a plus. And it doesn't bend anymore. Could you imagine trying to make this if it did? keep bending. All right, so now I'm going to cut off, I think, to this black, because I'm going to add another piece to it to make it longer. So I'm going to go ahead and make them all this length, I guess. And then I have to make this one match up. Ooh, I can make this one match up to it. Let me just straighten this bottom out. I think that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll just sew them together with each other and then choose my length. You know, I'm always changing my mind. So, all right, I do need to move all these. I'm trying to put the clothes here, there, and everywhere because I'm trying to keep track. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take this one. It doesn't match exactly from that. Maybe it will from this surfboard, maybe. Here. I'm going to cut the both of these just like this. They're on top of each other. Make a nice straight line. There we go. Straighten the line, and then I'm going to sew the two together. So it's cutting them both at the same exact spot. Now I'm going to go ahead and sew 1/4 inch on these two first. Move this out of my way. And with this whole thing, I'm going to be doing 1/4 inch seams. So I'm just going to go ahead, and I do have a smaller stitch length set at a 2 because a lot of this is t-shirt fabric and I don't want it to come apart even with my interfacing. All right, so now I should have one continuously. Ooh, yeah, look at that. It's sort of matched up. It's not really that horrible. I'm gonna press this seam to one side real quick, like that. All right, so now I have one super long piece. I'm gonna go ahead and repeat that, and then they're all gonna be a length because they all need to be a specific length. All right, so let's do, this one's done. This is gonna go on the top. This is how tall the top should be because the cross is coming out right here. So I want, oh, you can't even see it. You can see where the cross is coming out. I want the bottom to be longer than the top, but it's obviously longer than my picture. That way it's a big quilt. All right, let's find the matchy one of these. Let's just lay them on right here. I don't really think it matters on these ones. Just gonna match it right here, cut it, and it's gonna cut both at the same exact time, and then I'm gonna put them together. So just cut a little bit off. I'm gonna match them up right here. I did not put it in a matching part of the fabric, but I mean, you can if you want to, I guess. I'm not gonna be that particular about this quilt. I should up that a little bit. It's a lot thicker than I'm normally sewing. Okay, and then I'm over here at the iron pressing it, which I'm pretty sure, nope, you can't see it in the screen, but you can hear me. I'm just pressing it one way or another. All right, so the angels one is done. Let's do this Hawaiian one. So I'm gonna grab one more of these, match up right here. I'm gonna go ahead and lay it both on this line right here. Cut them exactly same spot, and then sew them together. Trash can is gonna end up so full. And then I'm going to press this back. All right, now I have all 3 of those. Now I need to choose a length for them to be. I mean, it really doesn't matter. Sorry, my shirt that I'm wearing, it does not like have a microphone hooked to it. All right, so I'm going to move those. Those are going to be my top. I'm going to have them lay out the way I want them. So we're going to line them up right here. And I think what I'm going to do is make them 36 inches long. Or actually, I'll do 35 inches. That's a more normal number. That can be here, right there, and right there. Yeah, I don't know. Let's just do, because I'm puzzling the rest of the quilt after I go around it with the white. So what I'm going to do, everything's nice and straight. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it at 36. I think that's good. And I need one of these that I could actually fit next to here. All right. So these pieces could now get set aside and used towards, these pieces can just go towards my, oh gosh, now I can't think of the word, towards my patchwork areas that are going to go around the cross. All right, so now I'm just going to sew these right sides together and then put all 3 of these together. And then I think I'm going to stop for the day and, well, at least for now, and then continue on later because I've been at this for a while. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and press this real quick off camera. Now one more. I'm going to go ahead and take this piece and put it on the opposite side. And then I'm going to go straight down this one. And I could, when I keep the rest of the sewing, I should just go ahead and put my walking foot on for all of this. It would be the smart thing to do. It's because I'm going through lots of layers and different feels of fabric. And this one definitely shifted right here at the bottom, or it just didn't cut correctly. But I will go ahead and straighten the 3 out. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and press this towards the angel's fabric as well. All right, so now I have this unit right here, and on top of this unit we're going to go ahead and measure real quick to see how many inches it came out. 14, just like I wanted. Good, good, good. I'm going to go ahead now and trim my center to 14 inches wide, and I think I'm going to shorten it. Oh look, it's almost 14 inches wide. There, 14 there, a little bit off. Try not to move it at all. That way I can straighten the darn thing out. Come down this side, straighten it up. There we go. And I'm going to shrink its height like I said I would eventually once I knew. I'm going to come across here. Oh, that's 14 inches, not 15. I'm going to go an inch above this. And then I do need to refix it because it is at, I'm going to come over here, take a little bit off each side, take a little bit off the bottom first while my ruler is the size I need because it's not 14, it was 15. I'm going to come down 1 inch beyond, so I'm at 17 inches. All right. That. I might be able to use that for the piecing part. And now we're going to do 14. So I'm going to center this up and cut a 1/2 inch on both sides. Now I need my long one. Oh, there it is. Got to find it. Go ahead and cut right here and then cut the other side. Round, line it back up, cut it, and then I'm going to sew my piece to the bottom of this because this long part is the bottom of the cross. So I'm going to get this attached and then everything's in the direction it's supposed to be. So I'm going to put this right sides together, close all these blades, be a pretty darn big cross. And there goes my little drawing. All right, here we go. Just carefully sewing it. Sure that seam doesn't flip. I'm going to go ahead and press this towards the shirt, towards the white shirt, because it doesn't matter. All right, so here is the bottom section of my cross. And now I need to assemble the top section. Now I have a super long piece. That should be a good long cross to make a nice big huge quilt. I might have to take the size down here. We'll see. We're going to see how long this ends up. So 3 of these again, they're going to go like this. I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to just make them all exactly the same size now. They're all going to get cut pretty much to the size of this shorter piece. Line this up, and line this up. Oops, like this one goes this way. I'm going to straighten them all up right now. Cut top. These can be filled. I'm trying not to waste too much. And then we're going to cut the bottom here. I don't need those pieces. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together real quick. And then, oops, don't break the ruler. Don't break ruler. Not a good thing. All right, we're going to put these 2 right sides together. And then I'm going to press it towards the angel's fabric. Trying to do this quickly like. All right, now to add this one on this side, keeping track of my directional fabric. Line it up. And then press it towards the angel's fabric. All right, there's that. I'm going to straighten it out one more time because it kind of just gets wonky when I sew it. So weird. The one with the surfboard shifts. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and add this to the top. And then my whole center of my cross will be ready. Go ahead and put that center, and I'm going to sew it very carefully with a 1/4 inch seam. Just going to line this end up. Hope that nothing shifts or moves. You know what I mean? All right, I'm going to press this towards Angel's shirt. And there I have the center of my cross. So it's pretty long, but the top part of my cross is going to come out this section right here, and then white's going to go all the way around it. But like I said, I can shrink it if I need to. There's nothing saying that it has to be this long, but it seems like I want the cross to fill the whole center of the quilt, and this is a little bit taller than me, so this is like the perfect height. This is how it should be with the 5-inch that's going to go all the way around it. I think this is like the perfect height. So I might not even adjust anything. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just fold this for now out of my way. That's my center. Clean up my mess, and I have other things I need to get doing. So this is just going to sit like this for now until I come back and keep working on it. And again, like I said, this is all going to be one video, so it doesn't really matter if I say bye now. See you in a minute. Today marks 7 days I have done anything with this t-shirt quilt. So I have got me come close the center part of the cross done like this right here. Now what I need to do is make these sides. But before I do that, I need to go around the first part with, I don't know, or I just build the sides first. I guess I'll just build the sides first. I don't want to confuse myself. So what I'm going to do is, here's my center. As you can see, it's very long and it's probably disproportionate. But what I am going to do is build 3 pieces, and they're going to be cut sideways. So this fabric was cut up and down because this quilt is going to be directional. So if this is up and down, the sideways ones need to be cut from the backs of the shirts in a sideways way. So what I'm going to do, just refold this back out of the way. This is probably not going to be my finished size of that. I'm going to grab the 3 that I chose for the sides, which would be these right here, and I'm going to cut the pieces I need and then interface them. Unfortunately, these fabrics cannot be ironed directly, so I definitely need to press them a certain way. Oh, we can pull that out. That's the front and back. All right, so I'm going to move that over there. What I'm going to do is cut my strips from these sideways. So hopefully I can get a good size from all these, even if I have to piece them together, and I'll do that after the interfacing is attached. So I'm going to go ahead and fold the shirt in half, line it up, that way I cut it nicely. So now I have, let's bring this down on the table. I have a cross. But what I need to do now to this cross is before I start putting things together, I actually need to go down these two sides with white and the top and bottom of both of these with white, as well as down on the bottom. Now the thing is I am going to have to attach it a little bit differently than normal, because we're going to do this a little bit different than normal. So I shouldn't have attached this, obviously. I'm going to go and lay this out real quick on my living room floor to see if it's proportionate for a cross to start with. Then the next thing I'm going to do is build top and bottom of both of these. And see, I should have not sewn this seam right away. But what I'm going to do, see if it's proportionate, see what I need to cut off. Then I'm going to build the top and bottom of white with this. And then I'm going to build the sides, and I will Y seam these together, and the rest. I wanted to build it in sections. So this whole piece is section. So I could build the white with all the pieces for the top. So this is what I'm saying right here. Let's come up to the camera. So I could build the white, make a straight line through here, and build this whole section with the white on the edge and all the stuff that goes there, and then build this bottom section also with the white finishing off sides, and then add the white to the top and bottom of this, except it's going to be sticking in a little bit because this one goes down. So the thing is this will be a piece right here of white, and then this will be a section. Get what I'm saying there? So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go lay it on the floor, see if it's proportionate, and then I'll be right back. And I think I'm going to build now the section. So top and bottom will go on this, and then I'm going to build a white piece this way and a block filling in the emptiness with all the fabrics, build this section, and build those two bottom sections, and then attach the 3 rows here, giving the white stripe this, white stripe that, and so on and so forth. And then leave it open so that I can still border it out with the cross still being surrounded by white. It is proportionate the way it's sitting now. So what I'm going to do is make sections. I'm going to put the 5-inch white piece on top and bottom of these 2 sections and of these 2 sections. Then I'm going to take a math measurement and minus a seam allowance. So once that 5-inch strip is right here at the top of both of these, then I'm going to measure the white strip that I need here from, say, it's going to stop about right here at 5 inches. I'm going to measure the white strip needed for here and build out this section, which it should, in theory, be the same size as this side. So I'm going to start building the top, and then it's going to be the same with the bottom. I'm going to build on the white for here, and then find out the math measurement for the bottom square. And then when I go to border it, it's going to have white in this section up here, which I can just add at any time and do the math from that. Honestly, actually, I think I'll do it that way. So for now, I'm going to do some cutting of the white so I can get the top and bottom here. This is all the white I have from all these shirts, so I might have to I don't have any like white. I could kind of think regular white fabric is going to be very noticeable, so I'm going to go through some stuff and see what I got, and then as soon as I'm ready to sew the top and bottom, I will come back, but I will put it in time lapse while I'm prepping all this stuff. Okay, so I got the center part of the cross and the 2 cross parts of the cross done. Okay, so this is all finished and this is all finished. The white on the outside right here and the sides down here need to be built with this section. And then I added the top and the bottom pieces already. So now I need to build a 23 by 28 inch section for the 2 top sides. So 2 28 by 23 inch sections. I just got to mark this off so that I know that's what I did. And that piece I made one whole unit, although the white still goes through. So I did the center, top, bottom, sides. Now I need to build 2 28 by 23s. And then once I build those, then I will go and measure the bottom section from where the piece hangs down. And I did put my 1/4 inch seam in on the 2 sides and the top and bottom. No, I did not. It's 28 1/4. I just thought about that. On the top and from height, top to bottom, I did that, but from the side to the side, I did not. So now I got that done. 28 1/4 by 23 is the section I need to build, and that includes this. So everything that I cut is just going to be built off of this, and I'm just going to scatter build it kind of like a crazy quilt. I'm also going to keep these pockets on here, which I'll quilt when I go to quilt the quilt. I'll quilt around said pockets, you know what I mean? But they'll still be openable and stuff could still be put inside of them. It'll just be against, you know, batting. So I'll just be aware when I quilt it that I'm not quilting over the pockets. But I'm going to leave them because I like it. So what I'm going to do is just start cutting some pieces, and I'm just going to start playing with it like a puzzle, because I don't want to just do 5-inch strip squares throughout the whole entire rest of the quilt. I definitely want to use bigger chunks of all of these shirts for the rest of this. And then I do want to save some 5-inch squares or some of this fabric to make 5-inch squares, because I am at the end, like I said, making a pillow as well. So I'm going to go ahead and cut probably right here to right here so I can save myself some room. And I'm also going to be using some, I'm going to cut all my pieces first, and then I'm going to start just interfacing them. I'm going to probably just lay them on and then cut them out. We'll see how that goes. But for now, let me get started on cutting all this out and making sure I leave myself some seam allowances. And again, I can cut 5-inch squares from all the last of all these kind of pieces, just so that I have them for all the pieces for the rest of the build. So that's what I'm doing. So I think in just a moment after I cut out a nice big chunk, let's see, to the 15, that's 10 inches. We'll do 16, so it's quite a few inches there. And then I got to cut the 2 sides off, and I should have a good chunk. So sides like this I won't be able to do, but I can take the little crumbs from all these pieces again and turn them into something. But I definitely want nice, good size blocks. So most of the littler pieces I'll probably crumb piece together. So here's already one square. Does not look very straight anymore. I guess once it's on interfacing, I'll trim it even better. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and behind me make a lovely stack, start assembling, and I have more white put together on interfacing so that I have enough white to piece together for the 2 bottom parts that's going to outline this cross, the highlight cross. So I still have more of that, and I also got to find my squares or my leftover strips I put somewhere of the already interfaced pieces for, there we have some right here, for building the pillow, because I still need those pieces as well to go with all of this. So those are my stringy pieces, and these are front and backs of shirts. So I'm going to start cutting out just random size pieces, and I'm going to use everything either as a 5-inch square or as the pieces towards the rear, like for the pillow and stuff, and for the bottom sections. I don't know why I said rear. I was going to say rear of the quilt, but back of this quilt is most likely going to be a nice big sheet. All right, so I'm going to straighten this out. I'll straighten everything out after the fact too. I don't want to do it all right this very second, but I am going to cut out some large pieces, and I'm going to interface them and then just build around everything. And I kind of think I want to split this one. No, I'm going to leave it solid like this. So I'm just going to cut some nice big chunks, and I think I'm going to just go ahead and put you in fast forward while I do so. So far I'm at the point where I need to start building all of these sections right here into puzzles. So I got my measurements, and all this, and this all need to be turned into big puzzles now. So what I'm gonna do, so I'm just gonna work on one section at a time. I think these are the shorter ones. These are the longer ones. I'm gonna move the longer ones out of the way, and I'm gonna work on one shorter one at a time. So what's going to happen is I'm going to build this out like a puzzle somehow, some way, like this, like that, like that. I don't even know how I had it laid out. Maybe I had it like this. I don't know. Either way, I'm going to be trimming as I go. So what I'm going to do is these solids that I interfaced, so the red, the blue, the black, and the flannel is going to go in between all the gaps. And I'm probably going to lose some of this stuff, but I'm going to just build it in and make it work like a puzzle. So I'm going to start by, I know that I need 23.5 inches up and 28.25 inches wide. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to start with figuring out how they're going to be somewhere in here like this. And I'm going to put some pieces here, in there, in here, in there. I'm just going to have fun trimming and building because this is a lot of work. So I'm going to be building 4 sections. 2 of them are enormous. So I'm going to start by straightening these pieces up and then building onto them. So, oops, we're going to put this back that way, this back that way, and this right there. I guess I'll start with this piece right here. What I need to do is move that all over just a little bit more so that I can have just a tidbit more space. And I'm going to be straightening all these up and then figure out what my cuts need to be. So I'm going to start by straightening these first. And I definitely do not want to use this rotary cutter because I want to use this one since I'm sitting down. All right, so this is all I'm going to do. I'm probably going to go ahead and put it in fast forward while I do this. Come back when I'm somewhat ready to start putting it together. I'll, take it out of fast forward because I'm definitely not cutting like you should when doing this. I'm just going to start building around these pieces. So I guess you could just watch and fast forward as I build them. Okay, so I now have quilt top done. I cannot hold the whole thing up. My next step is to straighten the top because it kind of got a little wonky while I was putting it together, but it's not like horrible. So I'm going to straighten the whole entire top by cutting it, which is, it's all right here. I'm going to trim it nice and square, and then I'm going to add, oops, bring this over here so you can see. I have this right here. I'm going to add this as a border. This is not 45 or 44-inch fabric. It's actually like 50 something. So I'll only need to cut like 5 strips, maybe 6. It's not very big. This is a lap twin, but it's assembled. And as you saw in time lapse, it definitely took a while to puzzle piece it all together. So now all I have to do is trim and add this border. So I guess what I'll do while I do this is just put you guys back in some time lapse while I trim it and add the border. And I'm hoping that this doesn't stretch too much. It's pretty good on the straight of grain. Yeah, it's just a little stretchy on the diagonal. So as long as I cut it nice and straight, it should go on nicely without having to interface this. I really wasn't wanting to interface the border. I just wanted it to be soft. And when I go to quilt this anyway, I'm just going to be using cotton thread. So let's get this trimmed up and, finished. So I figured while I was, screwing around in here that I would try my new gifted to me brother machine, the serger. And I think it's like a serger overlock, whatever. I don't know the difference, but I just sewn some scrap pieces just to play with the width of the stitch. And I figured while I was here, because this fabric that I added as the border for this quilt is very frayy. Fray's too much. Frayy is my plural word for fray. So I figured I would just run this through and serge the end. Why? Because I can. Plus I get to play with my new machine while I'm at it. So, and it doesn't really matter because I did a 6-inch border. So I'm going to just stick this under here. Yes, right there. I don't know. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do this. So there I have it, serged edge, so that it doesn't fall apart between now and the long arm. I just had to use my machine, guys, let me tell you. All right, so, well, I don't have anything else to do at this very second, but I shall return with a bonus project and then the long arm quilting and everything else. Okay, don't mind me. I am still working in my pajamas and filming all by myself. Anyway. Secondary project is I am going to take all these leftover 5-inch strips that I was using to make the cross part of the quilt, and then I cut a couple 5-inch strips from the black, the blue, and unfortunately I didn't have 5-inch strips of the red. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think I had any of the red, which is fine. I am going to go ahead and chop these down into 5-inch squares, and we're going to make a pillow. So I did recently do a video on a pillow, and it's the same exact pillow that you can find on Missouri Star on their videos. So I'm going to go ahead and just start cutting 5-inch squares while I sit here and in my pajamas, nice and warm. I'm telling you, it is so cold here. Well, at least for me. Other people would say, oh no, that's not cold. But guess what? For me, it is cold. I don't do well in cold. Okay, I just wanted to add what you just saw me doing in fast forward in the time lapse is I took some batting because I have scrap batting and I don't need anything other than scraps. Took the scrap batting and then I cut straight lines is what I did on 3 pieces. Then I attached them all together to make one piece of batting. So I used actually my interfacing. So I used the Pellon ES114 and because I don't have any the specialty tape for batting to glue it together when you're like on the long arm or something. I don't have any of that, but the interfacing works just fine. So just so you know, for the future, I cut 2-inch strips off of my interfacing to put the on here, and I just glued it down just the same as you would on the clothing, and it's nice and tough. It's one solid piece of batting, and now all I have to do is close my blade. Actually, no, I want my pokey side down because I'm not I'm going this way. So I'm going to put this on here, and I have way more than I need, but guess what? All the cutoffs for this are going to go inside the pillow. So what I'm going to do is just flatten this out on here, just like this, and I should put some pins because it's going to move around. Maybe I'll just try to quilt it without pins. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to actually quilt this, and I'm going to use my walking foot for this step. I know it sounds really crazy like a machine gun, but I definitely need to use something with a little bit more equal walking, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the walking foot and play the machine gun game for a little while, because that's what it sounds like. And then I think what I'll do is just time lapse the quilting of this because it's going to take a while, but I'll tell you what exactly I'm going to do before I start doing it real quick. So I did build this pillow 7 across by 7 down, and trying to make sure that this is good and on here. Move all of my stuff to the side, close this box and put it away. So as you can see, It's 7 across by 7 down. I tried to scatter the leftover fabrics as best as possible. I did, however, if you watched the cross be built on the quilt, I used white around it to highlight it, the white shirts. So I did do that with this pillow too. So the white shirts are actually going around here, down the center. And then every other one I added something just so that all the shirts and the pair of pants and stuff all have a piece in here. I'm going to quilt one side of one line on each side of every seam. So I'm going to go this way up, you know, the up and down that you can see. And then I'm going to take and go this way on both sides of the line. And I'm going to use my walking foot as the distance where I want to be from the seam. It makes it easier that way. And it's not quite a 1/4 of an inch. It's a little bit bigger than a 1/4 of an inch away, but it'll work perfect. And then I'll trim excess batting away, and then we'll do that. I'll come back and we'll do the folding thing that you fold it a certain way so that it can be hooked together and turned into a pillow. And then you guys could stick around and see how I stuff this, because I do need to show that too. Like I said, and we're making this a heavy pillow. So yeah, let's get to some quilting. So at this point, I'm struggling today. I'm super having issues, and I seem to be losing my mind. So the next step after quilting this, here's the pillow, as you can see. I'm going to put this whole thing right sides together, like in the long, not this way. Well, it doesn't actually matter which way. I'm going to put together this way. And I am going to match up or nest these seams on the side as best as I can. They should line up, but I'm going to pin them. So I'm going to pin the end in place first. I'm going to come to this first one and make sure they're right on top of each other so that they line up beautifully. Go to the next one, lay it right on top of itself, right there. Put a pin in it, line up this last one, put a pin in it. You know, I don't know if you noticed during the time lapse, but I was struggling. I'm having issues with my brain lately. It's an MS thing. And my thread broke, right, while I was quilting this. And then I rethreaded. Fine. Okay. So then after I rethreaded it, then my bobbin ran out. So I obviously cut thread, because sometimes I use 2 spools and, you know, I have one for the bobbin and then I don't have to worry about rethreading. But anyways, I unthreaded, I snipped it. I don't pull it out. I snipped the thread and rolled a bob. Then I started quilting. Notice I missed a step there. In the process, I quilted and I ran out of thread so fast, and I was like, oh, it broke again. Turns out it didn't break again. What happened was I forgot to re-thread the machine with the thread because it was still hooked to the bobbin winder. Duh. This whole process the last like 4 days, seriously. I'm telling you, nothing but pain in my rear. But I'm comfortable having fun, even though it doesn't look like it. I'm comfortable having fun and enjoying myself while I make this. All right, so this next step, now that the 2 sides are pinned, is I'm going to start from the top part where the opening is, okay, and then move to the bottom part. And I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam, which is kind of hard to do because I have my walking foot on, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam as best as I can. Down this side, I'm going to pull my pins out. I definitely do not want to run over the pins with the walking foot on, because it'll get stuck in the teeth of the walking foot, and it'll just cause so many problems. So I'm making sure I'm pulling them out. Back stitch right here at the end. And now I'm going to flip it over. And as long as I can get to my pins, I'm just going to sew this side now. And I'm sewing from the opening down again. I'm using a 1/4 inch seam. Well, as best as I can, 1/4 inch seam. And I'm holding this end nice and taut. And there we have the sides sewn. I'm still gonna need my pins in a second, but I am gonna move them out of the way before I stab myself, which was what was happening while I was in time lapse. I was quilting away and the quilt kept hitting this, so that's why I moved it down there and knocking the pins, and they were getting poked onto this piece, and it was just too much because I can't think at the moment. All right, now I have this big, huge bag-like thing. But what I'm going to do now is grab not the ends. I'm gonna grab the center top portion and the center bottom portion. And I'm gonna go like this and open them up like this. And what I'm gonna do is nest my seams now this way. I'm gonna make sure that the pillow part, you know, the inside that folds up, is out of the way. And if you guys hear some loud sounds, it's because the trash man is going by, or the recycle man, one or the other. And just gonna nest these seams. I will be leaving an opening to stuff this, and I'm gonna have to hand stitch it shut. I'm not very good at, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm just gonna nest these, and then I'm gonna sew a 1/4 inch down, leaving an opening somewhere on here. I don't think I want to leave the opening at the seam. I did that the last quilt, or the last quilted pillow like this. I don't think I want to do that this time. I think I'm going to leave the opening a little bit more like right here instead, to make it just a little bit easier for me to hand sew it shut. Come on, get in there, Mr. Pin. All right, and I'm going to go up here and do the same thing, beating myself up at the same time. As long as I'm not poking myself, we should be okay. All right, line this one. Just really nesting the seams. They're kind of thick, so that's why they're nesting really nicely, hopefully. Because the way the seams sit, they like butt up against each other, which kind of work perfect on my part, because, you know, I want it to be nice. And now what we're gonna do is take this side. Again, I'm making sure that that thing is staying out of the way down in there, and it is. And I'm gonna sew a 1/4 inch all the way down. I'm gonna back stitch right here at this double seam, and then I'm gonna stop about right here, leave an opening, and then continue on again, as long as the opening is as big as my hand, because I am going to be shoving the clothing in here, little clothing bits, which I will show you soon. So let's get this seam sewn, 1/4 inch seam. I'm back stitching. I'm also going to be taking my pins out as I go. My very not so good 1/4 inch seam. And I'm going to back stitch, like I said, here at this seam right here, because I definitely don't want that to come apart. 1/4 inch seam the rest of the way down. Just making sure that the pillow part is out of the way. I'm going to back stitch right here, really good. I'm going to leave my opening big enough for my hand and continue on. I'm going to back stitch really good again, because I definitely want, when I'm sticking my hand in there, I don't want to rip anything. Sewing the rest of the way down. Everything's looking good. Back stitch at the end. I'm going to remove my pin, and I'm hoping this hole is big enough that I left, because we do need to flip it right side out now. Seems good. I'm also not going to trim away the corner. I'm just going to leave them. Pretty good. All my corners are nicely poked out, out. Okay, so here's what it looks like so far. You can see the fabrics go nicely around, you know, no matter which way you hold it. So now what we need to do is stuff it, and I'm going to put you in time lapse while I chop up batting as well as some shirts, and then I'm going to insert it all in here. But I'm going to first try to layer it. So I'm going to go through the hole. Where's it at? Somewhere right here. Aha, down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get the batting towards the front. I'm going to lay a ton of batting in there by hand towards the front and up around the lips. Then I'm going to insert the fabric. I know it's going to get muched around, but I'm just trying to make it not feel clumpy. We don't want a clumpy pillow. We just want a nice full pillow. So I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to grab my 60-degree cutter, 60mm cutter. I don't know why I always say degree. Maybe it's a brain thing. And then I'm going to grab these batting scraps. and I have a ton more. This is not even half of it. And then I'm also going to grab the clothing, and then the rest of the clothing, I do need to peel off the interfacing. That way it's not crispy in there, that the fabric sits wonderfully, because the outside is already a little crispy. All right, so now we're at the part to add a tag. And instead of adding the tag in the bottom corner like I usually do after the fact, I'm actually putting it on the backing fabric directly and then going to quilt over it. So what I did, just so that you know, I laid the backing fabric on the living room floor and then laid the quilt on top of it so that I had a direction of where this tag is going to land. And I have it landing in the bottom right corner. So I went ahead and marked it off with my friction pin, came in here and ironed on interfacing to the back side of the backing. So you know there's a front and back of every fabric. I put the back side, interfacing on the back side. It is a 10 by 10 square. You cannot see it on here, but I am going to mark it off. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and mark off with my friction pin, because when I'm done doing this, I can go ahead and just iron away all the markings. So I literally have myself a 10 by 10 square right here that I'm marking out, and I'm going to go ahead while you're here and mark off the lines that I need to stay so that I don't start going sideways. I'm actually going to mark lines like paper on here every so often. That way when I'm monogramming this out, that everything stays within a certain space. And then if it does not take up all that space, what I will do is peel away the interfacing from the back up to where I stitched and then just cut that excess away. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and draw some lines. I'm going to make a square within this square because what I'm writing is a lot. So I'm going to come 2 inches in and 2 inches down, this about here and here, and then see if this is enough space for everything to fit, all the words. And then what I'm going to do after monogramming the words into this section, I'm going to put a decorative stitch around it and then pull away from there. So let me just make my square, and I went a little too far, but that is okay. 2 inches from this side. So now I have myself a center square within a square. And now I'm just going to mark some lines in here so that I know where my monogramming should land, nice and keeping it nice and straight. I'm not really measuring the distance of my lines. I'm just lining it up nice and straight and eyeballing in between. That way I can write it as if it was paper. My monogramming on my Brother machine is only so tall anyway. So this will just be perfect to line everything up. And one more line about right here. And if I go over it, it's fine. This is just a reference marking. And they look to be about 3/4 of an inch apart. No big deal. And this is a friction pin that erases with heat from the iron. So I'm going to go ahead and rustle this underneath here, and I'm going to have Scott read me the numbers of everything that this is going to say. And then afterwards, I'll show you. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and put you in time lapse while me and him, while I monogram this and he reads me the numbers. It makes it easier to type it in. I'm just going to put you in fast forward during this process because it's going to take a while to stitch this out. The next step to this whole entire process is to now iron this because it's super wrinkled and then load the backing onto the frame. I do, and I'm not going to record that part, need to go into the garage and get some batting. Other than that, I just need to iron this and get it rolled up onto the frame first, and then I'm just going to put it all in time lapse while I press, load, and then I'll go get batting, come back, and then finish loading, and then get to starting the quilting. So here's some more time lapse for you. The next step I need to do, since the whole, right, if you just watched during the time lapse, I actually put words in on the sideways so they're written where you can see them. Now I need to go down the sides of the cross, everywhere that the fabric in the white sections go down. We're going to take this off the frame and load it sideways. That way we can do all those, because I cannot do cursive writing sideways, Scott cannot do cursive writing sideways, so we're just going to turn the whole quilt. So that's the next step. Okay, so at this point, this is where we're at. It's off the frame. I need to trim it and bind it. That's the next step. I'm going to be binding it with this fabric right here, which is on the border. And that's it. That's all I need to do is trim it and bind it. It came out really good so far. I will give you a final lookie after it's finished. Thank you. Okay, so now the next step is to trim the quilt and make some binding for it and bind it. So just need to open the quilt up and trim it. It's a little on the heavy side, which I kind of knew it would be because it's a t-shirts and they all have interfacing on them and so on and so forth. So just need to trim all this off and make a nice square quilt and then bind it. It's trimmed. So the next step, I'm just going to leave this right here and leave you guys right there, is to turn all these into a nice long binding strip. And since this fabric is like 50 inches wide, 50 inches long, you know what I'm saying? The width of the fabric is, hold on, let's see right now. It's 62-inch fabric, so I cut 7 strips, but I don't think I'm gonna need all 7 strips, but it is an 80 by 90 quilt. So on the normal basis, I would have cut, I gotta think about this. On the normal basis for an 80 by 90, I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'd cut 8 strips, but this is a lot longer and I cut 7, which is probably overdoing it, but you know. All right, so I'm going to just do the same thing I always do, right sides together, but on the diagonal, and I'm gonna use the lines on the fabric itself as the lines to line it up on. So I'm just going to sew from corner to corner. And then I'm gonna take this piece, put it up here, grab my next one, use the top one. I'm gonna line the lines up because it is a flannelly print, checkered print, or whatever you want to call these prints. Just making sure that everything is staying right side up, even though, I mean, there is a wrong side and right side to this fabric. It is definitely a woven, I can tell you that. It's a tighter weave than other wovens that I've used, but this is t-shirt fabric, so it is not quilting cotton. But that's fine because you can use whatever you have to make a quilt. The sky is the limit. I've told you guys before, and I'll say it again, I have made quilts from sheets. You can make them from whatever you have. And they can still be super awesome too, which is the cool part. Like you just saw this, what I did with t-shirts. So the sky is the limit with any fabric, as long as you're prepping it properly. So if you're using a stretch, make sure you prep it properly, because I have made a quilt without prepping stretch and definitely had struggles the whole time. But I made it, and it's used in my living room as a throw, and it works just fine. And stretch is knit, just so you know. Sorry, I don't get all the words out properly, but you know what I'm talking about. All right, one final piece, and then I'll cut off all the edges of these, all the excess fabric. All right, so I'm just gonna bring this over here, and I'm gonna cut away the rest of all this excess so that it's not in the quilt. All right, now I have to, after this, we're gonna go to the ironing board and press it, but let me make this final cut, and then we'll go over to the iron and press it in half, and while I'm waiting for the iron to heat up, I will set the serger up. So I'm gonna put this up here for a second and see you when I'm ready to bind. Decided to serge it on directly to the quilt, so I'm going to make this. Okay, so now that I have serged the whole entire edge, here's where I combined them right here. I did not do a diagonal. What I did was I flipped over. Okay, so I cut this a good size before where I had ended, which was right here. You can see where the serge starts right there. I cut it before, folded it over itself with it open, like a 1/4 inch fold over, sewed it on the machine to keep it down, and then I brought this one in straight into it. Just filled it up in there. It ends about right here. I just put it right up in there, and before I brought it back to serge, I just did that second stitch across it to keep that one in it. And I held it nice and tight, if you noticed in the time lapse. So now the only thing I need to do is flip this over and stitch it down. So it actually worked amazing when I got to the corners. I just sewed right up about a 1/4 inch before the end, and then I tipped it and then sewed off and then kept my long tail. Obviously, I'll shove those underneath. But that way, when I fold over my corner, you can see I will still have a nice mitered corner, even from a serger. So I'm glad I did it with the serger overlock, because now it's not going to fall apart, and you should see, let me bring this over here. This is what came out of all that. So you can see it straightened the edge up nicely, but all that was going to shred off anyway. It just started shredding as I was sewing it. So you can see, bring it up close. That's all shreddings. So I'm going to toss that and then turn my machine off, because I am done with that for now. So now the last step is for me to roll the binding over to the other side. And then I do need to, once I roll the binding over to the other side, I just stitch that down. And the only thing I have left to do
is to stuff the pillow, which again, I'm using the leftover fabric and batting scraps because we want it to be a nice heavy pillow, not too heavy where it can't be picked up, but a weighted pillow so that when it lays against my grandma's skin, it's like an actual hug. So when she's holding the pillow, it's like an actual hug from a little person, like a child, you know, but still it's weighted for comfort. So, yep, I will get to binding it shortly, and I'll just do that in time lapse when I flip it over and do the opposite side all the way around, and then we'll get to stuffing that pillow and I'll show you how I do that. So I'm just going to put you in time lapse while I top stitch now the binding to the front.
And now, final thing that is, while I pick all this up off the floor, this is all the stuff that I will be stuffing the pillow with. So I'm gonna pick up all this stuff and make a big mess on my desk. See, getting it all cleaned up. Quite the mess of it. Here on the floor. And then I gotta hunt down, where did I put the pillow? I put the pillow over there. Okay, just have to hunt down where I put it so I could show you how I'm going to stuff it. Because some people have not used certain things to stuff. So I'm gonna show you. All right, move all that there. This is batting. Then I'm gonna bring over more batting and some more batting and wait, some more batting just for the general reference of it. All right, so some of these clothes I haven't yet peeled the interfacing off of them because I was a little behind, but I figured so that you could see that I'm using it all. Whole stack right here that I never pulled the interfacing off of. So I guess I can do that part in time lapse and just show you how I'm using all this stuff to stuff the pillow. All right, start with batting. What I'm going to do, see how the batting is already kind of square.
And my mat is already destroyed. This is going to put a lot of batting, cotton batting into my mat. But what I'm going to do is take a nice sharp rotary blade and I'm going to just free cut strips into this folded piece, just like this, trying to keep them somewhat straight, you know. Okay, so as you saw, and some people don't know that you can do that for like dog beds and stuff, you just take batting scraps. If you save them up like I do, I don't know why I do, but I do, save them up so that you can cut them up into little squares and stuff pillows, dog beds, you name it, you can stuff little teddy bears, whatever you want with these little scraps. They don't, when you cut them up, they don't ball up and make little hard. They are soft, just like any pillow stuffing. So, excuse me. My final step is to hand stitch this closed, but I'm actually going to wait to do that, and I'm not going to do it on camera because I'll probably get frustrated. So here is the pillow. And there is the final quilt. So coming up to the quilt, you can see I just did big looped loops. There's words all the way around it, like friendly, devotion, caring, hope, faith, considerate, prayerful, kindness, compassionate, forgiving, hugs, praise, spiritual, peace, smile, generous. There's all sorts of words all around the cross. You can see the big loops. Every single pocket is still a usable pocket. So there's one there. Let's see if I can find them all. There's one right here. Still looking. Oh, there's one right here. This one has a button on it. I left that. Could have swore there was 4, but I guess there is only 3. Anyways, I left all the embroidery, A for angels, intact. So there's one there. There's one here. I only quilted around the center, just like that to echo around it, so that way it had stitching there. There's another A. That one was built like that. And then there's one down here. So there it is in all its glory. It kind of looks weird and not equal because it's folded onto the floor like that. But when it's like fully laid out, you can tell that the bottom part of the cross is equal, like it's supposed to be. So there's that. Let's look at the back. All right, and here is the back. You can still kind of see the outline of the cross on the back, and I didn't stitch in a ditch around it either. I just left it. So you can see the loop-de-loops better from the back side. You can see where I went around pockets. The words obviously are backwards this way. Can't do anything about that. Most likely that's the pocket right there. You can see here's the beautiful tag. Says, this quilt made from clothes I used to wear be an ever, or may this quilt made from clothes I used to wear be an everlasting hug from me to you. Love, Kempe, 1936 to 2020. Made by Tiffany Groff, December of 2021. So that's that. Obviously there's most likely the pocket right there. The little A is probably right there. So you can see I just went around everything. All the words are backwards, but that's okay. All right. Here it is in its full glory. I want to thank you for watching my grandma's quilt being made from start to absolute finish. There's the pillow, so she can snuggle the pillow. I love you, Grandma. Enjoy your quilt. Bye-bye.